Good morning, everyone. This is Mortgage Pros 411. I'm Audrey Boyceano with my little, well, not so little really, co-host Kevin Casey. Tall. He's just tall. And today we are joined by Mike Roldan, who is with the FBI. He's the Supervisory Special Agent. That's a very lofty title, Mike. Very lofty. Do you stand in the mirror in the morning going, I
I'm-
am a Supervisory Special Agent for the FBI and pound on your chest? No?
No, I'm basically the supervisor for a white collar squad for FBI San Francisco. I'm based in Contra Costa County. I sit in the Concord office. But
Yes.
thank you.
Yes. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. Just a few notes. 10-year last time I checked this morning, God knows what's happened in the 5 minutes since. We were at 4.32, up, down, up, down. That 10-year is moving all over the place. And so we'll see where it lands. The Fed is meeting today and tomorrow. As we know, kids, that can be a market mover tomorrow when Uncle Jerome decides to speak, or I don't know if he's having a press conference tomorrow, but they will definitely have a Fed statement. They're not expected to do anything. They're just going to pause and just
See
let
what
things,
happens.
but we'll see.
Yeah.
Because the theme of 2025 is hold on to your bootstraps. You never know what's going to happen next. So, with all that being said, that is something that will potentially move the market. So just hang in there and see what they come up with. And if there's anything out of the ordinary, we'll just deal with it, right? A little reminder, we're with the Christmas commentary group. Make sure you're plugging into Rob's commentary every day. And also, if you are anywhere near Thousand Oaks, go to the Camp Greater Ventura Lender Fair on May 15th. It is wonderful. There are good speakers. There is a lender fair, obviously, since it's a lender fair, there is one. So
There's some special guests too.
I know you are going to be there. So
Me? Wait, me?
are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Anyway, I might be there too. We'll see. All right. With all that being said, a few things of note before we get going with Mike. So active listings. I want to talk about this because I am sure the headline will be active listings are up 30% since year over year since 2024. And just to be clear, they're still down 16% from pre-COVID April 2019, and we've had a 12 million person population increase since then. So although they are up year over year, it just means people are letting go of the properties that they have sub 3% loans on. I have one going right now. Do you have any that are low rates that are selling, Kevin?
I have not. They're coming to me for their second loans first.
Ah, got it. Okay.
And then you know what happens after that. Then the
Yeah.
next option is, well, now you're paying so much on your boat is starting to list to one side. You've got all this interest, high interest rates on one side of your loan, but the other side is not low interest rate, but you're going to sink your boat because it's going to tilt too much to the side. You need to balance your boat.
The pictures that you paint, I'm like, oh my God. Okay, so no, the answer is no. So
None right now. So far, I've been able to get people
I
seconds.
had a number. So it is happening, kids. It is happening. People are moving and having to live their lives. So home price appreciation, according to Cotality, which is formerly CoreLogic, up 0.6 month over month. They expected 0.3, so better than expected. And this is CoreLogic again. Now it's Cotality. They're expecting 4.9% in the next 12 months. Is as we know, because we interviewed their chief economist, Dr. Selma Hepp, they're a little conservative on their estimates sometimes. So for them to have a 4.9% appreciation expectation is really something else. I'm a little surprised.
That is pretty aggressive.
It is aggressive. So a few other
But we're
things.
also May. May is usually the hot month in real estate. May, June. Right? No? You don't agree?
I do. Okay. Student loans collections have begun, guys. We have mentioned that almost 10 million people are behind on their payments. That 5.3 million of them are in default, which means they are late by more than 270 days, which I did the math on. That's 9 months. You could birth a baby in the amount of time they have not been paying their student loans. So, and then 4 million plus are 91 to 180 days late. So the problem with this is they're going to be able to start garnishing wages sometime around July. They can take your tax refunds. So, and a lot of the people who are behind are on the lower end of the income spectrum. So be on the lookout for people who need help. And also, I think the number was like 65% of them are in trouble. Well, anyway, the bottom line is there's a lot of people out there who need help, and make sure you're watching it on your pre-approvals, because you need to make sure they're making their student loan payments at this point, and that doesn't bite you when you get into contract and you're actually headed towards the finish line. So there you go. BLS. Okay. Jobs report came back out last week. It was total crap as usual. Just remember, kids, the unemployment rate stayed the same at 4.2%. However, their numbers are wackadoodle. So they said that we had 177,000 jobs created in the month of April. We also know, just to remember, that half of the jobs they reported that we had last year had added were complete bupkis, and that came out
Last
later.
year or last month?
What?
So the March numbers or all of the previous year?
Last year. I'm just reminding people that even though they're saying they're up, we had 177,000 jobs, it doesn't mean we had 100. It means they're reporting it, but stand by for their revisions, not rescissions. Oh my God, 3-day rescission, get it? Anyway, bottom line is, ugh. I am not a fan, as we all know. All right, so I have a few other things, but I'd like to get to it with Mike, so we can make sure we cover everything we need to cover. Good morning, Mike. Thank you for sitting through.
Morning.
I really appreciate it. All right, so let us start with the title that we had for today, which was Title Pirates and AI Fraud. So title pirates, let's start there, shall we? Your buddy had used that name. He made sure that he said that it wasn't his idea. So this is something that is out there in the universe as something that's happening. And we've discussed it briefly on here before, where people going in and stealing the title or deeds to people's houses without their knowing about it, which is, so egregious. It's insane, right? So
Yes.
why don't you tell us a case? And I love it because Mike gets very excited about the cases. Some of these cases, they're his idea of cool is it's very enthusiastic, and I love it because he loves what he's doing. And so tell us about the case where you had the cash out refinances and how they were happening.
Yeah, so this is a great case. The investigators in this situation believe that the subject obtained victim information from the dark web. We believe that during certain parts of legal process that the subject had a bunch of victims' personal identifying information, PII, on a zip drive. Now, the subject in this case targeted the victims based on their age. Now, he had multiple people's names and PII, but they really looked for the people between the ages of 50 and 70. And this is because at that age, typically people will have already purchased a home, and a lot of it would either be paid off or it would be paid off. The subject in this case then sent these victim names to a insider at a car dealership, who then ran the victims' credit reports under the guise of them being customers of the car dealership. So the subject did more research, used all of this. He knew all the debt to income ratio of all the victims, all the potential victims, and they knew exactly how much to ask for. Also, because the bad guy had all the credit reports, he knew exactly which institutions to not ask for a cash out refi, because he had all the credit reports and information. Associated persons had everything there that he needed. So using this information, he had another subject make fake identifications, fake driver's licenses, and then recruited a few homeless people who were also subjects of the case to take pictures using and make driver's license using the stolen information. The bad guy then arranged meetings with mobile notaries where they could get signed documents. So then the bank would feel good about giving out these cash out refinances. The scheme in this case was discovered in part because a victim received a letter saying something to the effect of, your trust or your property was changed, or something was changed. So then that's how the scheme came about, and that's when law enforcement came about. There was a referral to a local district attorney's office, and then they called the FBI to open up a case. So this was a highly successful case. There were 7 subjects in total.
Wait,
All
please hold.
7
Subjects are the bad guys?
bad guys. Yes, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. That's us speak.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so there were 7 total bad guys. There was one mastermind behind the whole thing. All of them were charged. Most of them were the case is complete. There was one fugitive at large, a lower level person, but I'll name off some of the sentences. One person got the main person got 87 months. Somebody got 4 years. Another person got 54 months. Another got 7 years. And some of the lower level people, everybody got years in federal prison for this. Also, there was a approximate $2 million restitution order that they were going to be ordered to pay to the financial institutions. The victims themselves, the people whose homes, those they weren't responsible for that, and the banks did end up losing money in this, but the bad guys were ordered to pay those back. We also did get back, interestingly enough, we got nearly $500,000 from a safe deposit box from one of the bad guys' family members, and then we were also able to recover more than it might have been almost $1 million in gold bars, because what they did with the ill-gotten gains, he bought gold with it, and we were able to seize all of that as well.
So gold sellers, do they track when people are buying gold, at the report that so and so bought so much gold for me, or
A good
not
question.
necessarily?
No, that's a good question. I'm not sure about that. I know there are some requirements from in their industry, but I'm not familiar with them.
I mean, when I was personally involved, I used to work for a bank, and I was in an audit department, and one day we got a call that there was this scheme going on, and I came in and figured out how to catch the scheme and find it and trace it back to who the guys were doing it. And ultimately the money was being used to buy gold bars. And but they hadn't, it was really funny because we went to the golds and we said, don't sell it. The check is fraudulent. We've stopped the fraud. And he said, no, I've already bought the gold. I have no obligation. Now, this is many years ago, so the rules have changed since, because I have no obligation not to sell this. I've already arranged for a sale. Why would I not do this? So the bank stepped in and bought the gold. It was fun. That was the only way we could stop the transaction, was by buying the gold ourselves, and that way we stopped the check. It was a bank cashier's check, so you can't put a hold on it. And so we were able to stop the transaction, get the gold money back. And the funny thing is, we made money on the gold, which was the best part of the whole deal.
127 years ago, though. So
it was 127 years ago, but it was interesting, because I always felt, was like, well, that's the biggest, hiccup in the scheme of, trying to catch the bad guys. So they're just going to buy gold, and there's no tracing that gold, and then they can just trade gold back and forth. Then, what's to stop them?
If you have to register an Hermes bag when you buy one for $35,000 with the purse designer Hermes, which I use their perfume. But anyway, if you're going to buy one of those bags and they require you to register it, why wouldn't you have to register your gold purchase? Or, and the other, we were talking about the third party identification, or, multi-factor for wires. Like, why haven't we implemented something like that, so that you don't have people misdirecting their wire in the wrong place? There's some sort of check in place that will go, stop. Okay, let's make sure that we are all talking about the same thing and looking at the same thing. But anyway, Mike, that is remarkable, because that whole scheme required an incredible amount of knowledge about how the system works. I mean, and then Luke, the guy at the car dealership, did they go to jail too? Okay.
I know. Well,
Tell me tonight.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I won't say on here, but
Is there an NMLS system where you have to register as a car sales so that once you've been convicted of said crime, you can no longer work in a position where you have access to this kind of
I
information?
don't think car dealerships have that issue.
I know, I'm, I know they should.
I bought many a car and I'm like,
The fact
Yeah.
knew not to go back to the same lender. That's the fact that they were able to put all of that together and run the credits, know people's LTV, know what it's crazy. And just know, kids, that our information is out there. And Jenny had a great comment, and she said this wouldn't happen if you locked your credit. So this is, again, we're always, 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 always talking about things to talk to our clients about, and this is one of them. High importance as far as making sure you're telling your clients, just lock your credit. It's
well, they don't have to lock it. They just have to know they got an inquiry. And if I got an inquiry saying I was applying for a car loan and I didn't, then I would know something's up.
or you could just lock it and no one can do a damn thing. Because if you haven't locked it, they can still run a credit and
Sure.
then that bad guy has all your information. So locking it is probably the best thing. Knowing how to unlock it is the trick, which we have to deal with on our end.
It's a pain in the butt on our side.
What?
It's a pain in the butt on our side.
For the people who have it on their apps, it's click, click, pretty easy. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah. Oh my gosh, guys. That is nuts. Okay. So as far as the stealing of the deeds, this is a huge problem too. And so they're going in and they're just transferring title and there's just no checks and balances at most county levels. And apparently they all have different policies around this. I actually put a call in to see what my county's policy was, and I haven't heard back from anyone yet. So that is something we could add to our, for people who do the annual audits for people's mortgages, where you call people and you don't want to call someone because you're like, yeah, they got 2.5%. What's the point? Well, here's a point. Here, I'm going to run a property profile before I call you. And then I'm going to be able to tell you that nobody's transferred your title into a different name. How about that?
No, I'm not going to call them if someone transferred a title. I'm going to think that they sold their house and therefore they're not my client anymore. They went off to somewhere else.
So maybe that would be a good conversation. God, that's a good point though, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
If you do pull the property profile and you see that,
They
okay,
say, oh, John Jones now owns Audrey Boysono's house. Oh, Audrey must have sold her house. Oh, she didn't call me when she was selling. I'm so depressed.
yes, that would be cause for depression. However, yeah, that's a good point. But we would have to push through that. Okay, this is obviously a therapy session for Kevin. He can talk about his insecure feelings with the therapist, and then he can figure out a strategy for how to approach his clients with this information, and then we'll move forward. Anyone else who's got some helpful hint on how to deal with that, let us know. That'd be great. Oh my God. Anyway, Michael, how much are you guys looking at these title situations? Do you just, they have to come to you and whack you in the head, or are you looking for them, or how does it work?
I haven't seen personally a ton of it getting at least in the complaints and referrals that I've been getting. I haven't seen a lot of them.
That's because you're in California. And California's title company or title is more current and fresh. I've heard that the big issue is on the East Coast where some of these counties are really slow to record title.
That's a great point.
Am I understanding that correct?
Yeah, I closed a deal in Colorado, and I'm telling you, like in California, we're waiting for the recording confirmation, right? That's our signal. Our deal is done. And and this deal was a while ago in Colorado, but I mean, I called, I'm like, so when will we have recording confirmation? They're like, we don't have that. I mean, it literally didn't happen for weeks. I'm like, how do you keep something from swooping in and getting recorded out of turn or whatever? So I don't know how that system works. Anyone that has great insight to that, I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, but we did hear a story, and this happened years ago, where the deed to the Empire State Building was transferred, and it was done by, I think, a newspaper organization just to see if they could. And people got into big trouble. I mean, big trouble. So I wouldn't recommend experimenting with that.
But they had the money to solve that problem because they owned the Empire State Building. They could then sell it and pay for all their court costs.
Right. I think there were some problems with that, but you know, aside from that, anyway, it happens. It happens. But I keep getting these pop up from all over the country of people who have done this, and it is
People have done this and they're telling you this, Audrey?
it's a news story. But I'm always amazed by the fact that they're going to mess around with this. It's a piece of real property. You can't move it. You can't hide it. You can't take it somewhere. Like, why does that seem like a good idea? I mean, other than your idea, with your client, not your idea, your bad guy's idea, which is I'm just going to do a cash out refinance and take all their equity, and that, yeah, that's all I have to say on the subject. Good God. Okay, so this popped into our heads as we were having a conversation because the VA foreclosure moratorium has ended. So, and I've got some delinquency numbers on that, but the delinquencies, needless to say, are way up. And again, not from pre-pandemic levels. Delinquencies overall are very low still, very, despite the headlines. So actually, let me just go through this real quick and then we'll pop into the reason I even brought it up. So we are still 29 basis points from the lows of a few years ago. So we are still very low. FHA is almost half of the 90 days delinquent loans. Isn't that something else? VA, this is the headline that I'm worried you're going to see or your borrowers are going to see and they're going to freak out. VA 54% higher than last year. But again, that's from when we had a moratorium. So when we came out of the foreclosure moratorium after COVID, the headline was foreclosures up 175%. And as we know, that meant it was still below 1%. I mean, extraordinarily low. So my point is there are more foreclosures, but still not a lot. With that being said, we thought we'd give you a little reminder of what happened during the meltdown when we did have a lot of foreclosures, just in case you wanted to advise your clients to be careful of these things. Go ahead, Michael.
Sure, yeah, this was another, it's a really sad case. There were, I believe it was 40 to 50 homeowners who lost their homes. I think only one person was able to keep their home. But the way it started, the bad guys, they used a delinquent uh, a delinquent list. So people who haven't paid their mortgage or are late on their mortgage, and they went around and they told them, they said, "Hey, you can keep your home. You can stay in your home. We'll transfer. We'll make the payments for you. We'll transfer your home to a qualified buyer, aka a straw buyer, and you'll be able to stay in your home, and everything is great. And we'll give it back to you once you guys can afford to pay your mortgage again." Now, what's messed up is most of these homes had a good amount of equity in them. These were they preyed on either elderly or non-sophisticated buyers or sellers or homeowners, and they didn't really understand any of this. Any of them could have hired good people like yourselves and sold their property and made plenty of money. But instead, they transferred it to these bad guys, and then basically the Ponzi scheme fell apart. Almost everybody lost their homes. One person got to keep their home. So that's how I believe the banks lost about $10 million or 10 to maybe even a little more than $10 million. But the worst part is when people are kicked out of their homes. So the bad guys in this case, most of them were charged. They were all charged with the bank fraud statute, which I believe is a 10-year statute, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll just quickly say the mastermind behind all of it actually received a pretty decent sentence, which was 14 years. The other two were lower level people cooperated, and they received, I think, between 3 and 5 years each. But the unfortunate thing is, I think the moral of the story is that real people, people with not a lot of means, lost their homes, and
Yeah.
we just anytime where people are desperate or whatever, you're always gonna those are the times where bad guys are going to try to take advantage of that, and that's what happened here.
Most of us still have PTSD from that time period. It was a nightmare. And yeah, it was just awful. And we saw the hangover from that during the CARES Act, where there was, you could go into forbearance if you needed to, etc., with absolutely no ramifications. And there were still people who were in default at that time because they were afraid to call their servicer. They remember servicers were not there to help them. They did not have a plan to help someone stay in their home through a short-term emergency. So, and again, I'm not talking about the people who abuse the system and stay in their homes forever and don't pay. I'm talking about people who genuinely just have an event in their life and they just need a little help over that hurdle. And right now, more than ever, they've got equity unless they bought their house in the last 2 years. So again, just a reminder to be in touch with your borrowers, make sure they know that there are resources. And actually, I've got something to go over about with the CFPB and their latest. So it sounds like there still will be some help for the consumer, God willing, if we were to take it at face value. So it is rough out there. There's always some bad guy looking for some way to defraud someone. We have a comment in the chat. Someone's asking where I got the data, and I'm guessing they're talking about the delinquency data I was just talking about, and that came from ICE, which was previously not BlackRock, Blackstone, Black Knight. No, is that
BlackRock, Blackstone.
Black Hawk Down? I don't know. Anyway, ICE. They are one of the premier data providers for the industry, and so that's where that came from. Bottom line is, people are really feeling the impact of the economy and prices being where they are, etc. And we need to reach out. You can't sit around waiting for your phone to ring. You got to reach out and talk to people so that you can figure out. You never know. You call them, you have a conversation. I mean, the random things that happen from random conversations, and you find out something, and then poof, you can help them. It'd be great. So, we have a comment here. Assuming there are rules in place for gold or art, why would one assume the criminal element would follow them? I think that they're asking, Mike, oh, okay. You were so still. I wasn't sure if you froze. I think they're asking that there must be laws around how you monitor art sales, gold sales. So why would somebody get in there? But I mean, there are rules around everything, right? And people come up with scams. Thoughts,
Well,
Mike?
Oh, yeah, I mean, the bad guys are always are like
you're always thinking
Morgan
of
said, they're
bad
always
ways.
looking for a way. They're always looking for a way to make money illegally. So,
Well,
but
you know what the funny part is? They're always trying to find a shortcut, but they end up doing it. If they had put as much work into doing it the legal way, they'd have made a whole lot more money. But they tend to go, well, no, this is going to be a shortcut to make a real fast buck. And then they get in deep into it and they end up spending so much work on this great idea they have to scam the system. When if they had just done it and focused on doing something the legal way, they probably would have made a whole lot more money and they wouldn't have had to spend time in the, federal prison.
So we have a comment here from Brandon. I'm kind of with him. 14 years is not enough. Death by public hanging is sufficient, which, I could get behind that maybe. But I will just remind us that a few years ago, when we had the opportunity to talk to somebody who had been called at some point in the morning and said, hey, we're the FBI, we're going to arrest you at 3 p.m. this afternoon for something that you did allegedly, as it turned out, really did a number of years ago. And he went to federal prison, and I don't think he was in federal prison a really long time, but it changed his life forever. The last time we talked to him, he was working in an Amazon distribution center in Arizona, and I mean, he could never be in financial services again. He was kept out of the industry that he wanted to be in, and so there are ongoing consequences, happily. But yeah, Brandon, you and I probably shouldn't be the ones in charge of making the rules. So
Well, actually, good question. Maybe you can answer is, what are the things that are getting people in trouble in the fraud as far as mortgage professionals? That, upright mortgage people need to be on the lookout that, hey, this is what's going to get you in trouble. And I can think of a couple examples. One would be fraud, where you fraud for property. So you either say that the owner occupant is going to rent it out, or vice versa. They're going to rent it out, but they're going to say the owner occupying it. And then the other one, where I see people doing is like stuff where we joke about it all the time, but Audrey and I get this pretty regularly. We're teaching a class, and we're talking about all the rules and regulations in the mortgage world, and how you can't be, getting money on the side for referrals and such. And then one of the people in the class will walk up to us and say, "Hey, I have a whole bunch of business. I'll pay you a referral fee, or how much of a referral fee will you pay me if I give you this stuff?" I'm like, "Were you not just listening to the class? That's what we just talked about." So I'm sure it's out there. But curious what you guys are saying on your side.
How about
as
they go
to-
through the whole RESPA violation spiel, and then they come up and say, well, all I do is pay someone $1,500 every time they give me a referral. That's fine, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, were we in the same room, and was I speaking Swahili and I just didn't realize it? Anyway, so okay, so Michael, tell us
Yeah,
what gets to know.
sure. So some other, you mentioned already owner occupant. Something that we've seen is people misrepresenting how many tenants they have. So say, for example, rather than they represent to a lender that they have a 90 or 95% occupancy rate in their rental, but in reality, they maybe only have 80 to 85%, which would make a big difference in rates and things like that.
Oh, you
So
mean like they fake leases and such?
yeah, and like, yeah, they call them, I believe it's ghost tenant is what I've heard said before.
I have never thought to even look for that.
Who was saying that that is in the multi-family space, and
Yeah.
so it's got to be bunking rent rolls and lease. I mean, the whole bit. Like anyway, okay, keep going, Michael.
Oh yeah, and then also just I think you guys probably see this a lot. Sometimes they'll they'll fake how much somebody makes. So somebody maybe somebody works and they make $50,000 a year, but they they falsify the documents and say they make 150 so that they could get approved for stuff. So that's probably one you guys see sometimes.
Okay, so I keep saying that I cannot figure out how people are getting away with that, because I mean, we know it happens, but everything is checked, double checked, quadruple checked. Like, how on earth? So, yeah. So, occupancy fraud, we've talked about quite a bit, both ways, whether you're misrepresenting, whether you're going to live in it so you can get a lower rate, or whether you're going to rent it so you can use rents to qualify. So, both ways are illegal. And in California, we talked about this, it's a felony to misrepresent occupancy at this point. And I have started saying this pretty regularly to realtors as well, because there are a whole group of people out there who have gone through many, many years of doing this as a normal business practice and thinking nothing of it. And at this point, it's going to bite them in the tail in a way that they never saw coming. And they do need some warning that and maybe they'll listen to you, maybe they won't. Sometimes people don't, but at least you have done your part and told them.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to catch.
Yes.
Lots of different ways.
Well, these days, everything is easy to catch.
Yeah.
I mean, everything is verifiable pretty easily. So yeah, it's crazy. So Michael, why don't you talk about AI fraud and what you're seeing there? That's
Yeah.
a you.
Sure. You guys know what LLMs are? Large language models.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So as far as that, there are LLMs out there that were specifically made to do bad things, to write malware, to write viruses and things like that. But you can even use a legitimate LLM to write malware. There's just a way you have to word it to make it happen. Credential harvesting. Sometimes the bad guys will use LLMs to craft these really convincing phishing emails or fake websites that'll trick the victims into revealing their login credentials. Also, it can be used in phishing and social engineering. The emails, images, and language that are crafted with the help of the LLMs appear more sophisticated and harder to detect as fraudulent. So whereas before, maybe frauds that were coming from other countries, you could kind of tell that they were fraudulent because of because of bad grammar or whatever, but with the use of these LLMs, it's making it harder to detect those. Here's a big one is the deep fakes. So I think we may have talked about this last time, but there was somebody overseas who authorized a multi-million-dollar transfer to who he thought was the CEO. They made a deep fake which had the CEO talking, and there were people walking around in the background. And so I think that's just a good reminder, don't, if there's pressure behind some kind of financial transaction, call one, call two, call everybody, and just make sure that what you're doing is correct, because if there's pressure there, then there's a good chance that there's some kind of scam going on. Also, AI could be used for a really common scam that we still see a lot of. So I think somebody asked some of the stuff that we are seeing a lot of. It would be the cryptocurrency scams, and then also the escrow related business email compromise. Just be really careful with that, because the bad guys, they target the publicly available information, like your guys is all your business is real estate, so they'll target your guys' website, and you probably have all your contact information there. They can use that to spoof your phone number, because they have your phone number because it's there on your website. They can craft an email that looks exactly like your email, even using things like the Cyrillic alphabet. They can use graphics that look exactly like your company's graphics. So I think just when dealing with that kind of money, just taking all the safeguards that you can if possible, and just having multiple ways to verify that the person on the other end is who they say they are. And if it has to do with money, just be as careful as possible and take as much precautions as you can. Oh, and then also, if somebody does make a mistake and send a wire and they realize there was something wrong with it, call the financial institution and right away and say recall the funds, that it was a fraudulent transaction, and then report it on ic3.gov. If done quickly enough, there's a good chance that they'll be able to get some or all the money back. Of course, there's no guarantee, but the faster you act, the better.
That is a big change from before, where they said, if it's gone, once it's gone, like really gone. So
yeah, I'd say, with wires, yes. When it comes to the cryptocurrency, there are times where law enforcement can get lucky and they're able to trace some of it, but a lot of the times the money goes overseas and is transferred multiple times, and sometimes to countries which don't cooperate with United States law enforcement. So that's with the crypto, but with wires, there is a chance if you can report it quickly enough.
well, it's been a while since we mentioned this, but a number of years ago, Kevin and I were meeting with the DRE, the Department of Real Estate in California, and they told us about loan officers' identities being stolen and their NMLS numbers being used to loans. That, I mean, we
I
didn't
know
get,
someone had that exactly happen to them. Someone
so
created a Facebook account, copied the loan officer's other Facebook information, and then started soliciting business in their name.
the recommendation.
Fortunately, their compliance department caught it, and they said, "Hey, you didn't do your Facebook correctly." They're like, "What do you mean I didn't do my Facebook correctly? Like, I just have a personal site." No, you're soliciting mortgages on it. I'm like, no, I'm not. And went in there, someone completely copied all their information, their photograph, their contact information. But when you clicked on it, it didn't dial that number. It didn't send to that email address. It sent to the bad guy's email address.
The suggestion at that point was to Google yourself regularly, which I don't do it either, because who wants to look at themselves? So have you done it recently, Kevin? I haven't, but
You know what? I originally set up a Google alert. So if anything happened in my name in Google, I would get an alert, but I haven't received an alert from that for ages. So I don't know what happened with that.
So another situation came to my attention this week, and I was talking to Michael and his colleague about this, where a homeowners association had figured out that they were not going to pass the muster with Fannie and Freddie, and gave them documents that were basically either fabricated or, well, they were at the very least incorrect. And buyers bought condos in that association based on that information, thinking that the HOA was strong and everything was groovy, only to find out later that that was not the case. So
Who the heck thought that was a good idea? Holy moly.
yeah, so that's unfolding, but something to be aware of. So again, if you're, I am very leery of condos. If somebody already owns one, you have to just help them deal with it. But if they are buying a condo, you want to know that they're buying in a good HOA and that the management is strong and that they have their financials really together and, right? So it is no joke. This is not just a function of get the file through. It's a function of, does the buyer know what the hell they're actually buying and the ramifications of whatever the situation is within the HOA. So just another lovely thing to be thinking about, but also a way to be of value to your buyers. I mean, the selling agents are going to be a little cranky, but again, if somebody is buying with their eyes wide open and they know what they're getting into, and you find a non-QM lender who's fine with everything the way it is, that's great. Great. I know of an association where they have really worked hard to get the repair work done and get their reserves in order and to make sure they've done everything to get it all right. And they're still on the unavailable list, but they're really working to get off of it. So that's happening. And if they're doing that, great, then they're a good association to buy into. But if they're not, and if your client is buying into something that is going to potentially blow up in their face down the road or be something they can't afford, you're not doing anyone a service by closing that loan, in my opinion. Thoughts, guys? No?
No, but there is a great comment from Mike comment.
Stacey, now you don't want to talk? Oh, geez, Louise. Okay.
There's a great comment on the line just going back from Lilia, that someone pretended they were her and submitted a loan to a wholesaler. And the only way she was able to find out was the wholesaler called her to thank her for the business.
Like, what a great idea.
So my question then is, did she get the actual credit for the loan and get the check?
That's terrible. Geez, Louise. I just makes there are so I mean, Michael, I hope you're working very hard. It is a full-time job for us to keep ourselves out of scam trouble, like people doing terrible things to us.
Yep. I get it regularly from clients sending me stuff like, hey, is this real? Is this not real? Fortunately, our company makes us take all these classes every year to identify, phishing and spoofing and all these other things. So, I would say I'm somewhat okay with it. Obviously I'm always leery. And like you said, I don't get the emails anymore from, I'm assuming Africa, where they call me, what was the title they'd always call me?
Prince.
No, not Prince. So like Mademoiselle, but not, that's the female version, I know, obviously, but they would like a very fun master, not master.
Oh my God. Okay, so they're calling you something.
No, but it was a very formal title they would address me as. And I can't remember what it was now. And it was always a tell because what the hell, no one ever calls me that. Or Mr. Kevin. I get Mr. Kevin sometimes. That would be one.
Okay. I called Miss Audrey all the time. I don't know why. If someone could let me know, I'd appreciate it.
That's usually a spam.
That is not, no, like people, like it's, yeah. That's really funny that you think it's a scam, and I wonder why.
I think an email addressed to Mr. Kevin is immediately there's phishing or spam.
That is funny. Okay, guys, there was a memo that was released. Actually, it was a while ago, but I just saw it. It was just posted by the CFPB, and they were very clear. This is walking us through what their focus is going to be. So they are going to rely big time on the states and do less. They're not going to be doing the same thing that another agency is doing. So they're going to really be focused on targeting situations that only they will be targeting and nobody else. They are going to shift the focus from they're back to depositories. So they had kind of gone away from focusing on banks, and then they were focused on others. So here's, let me give you real numbers. In 2012, 70% of the Bureau's supervision focused on banks and depository institutions and 30% on non-banks. Now that proportion is completely flipped, with over 60% on non-banks and less than 40% on banks. The Bureau will seek to return to 2012 proportion and focus on the largest banks and depositories. Okay, well, they have more resources, so I guess that makes sense. They're going to focus on actual fraud. We talked about this a few weeks ago, to the consumer, where there are identifiable victims with material and measurable consumer damages, as opposed to matters based on the Bureau's perception that consumers made wrong choices. So they're going to focus. And number one, kids, on their list of things they're focusing on is what? Mortgages. That's right. So we are definitely going to be something they're going to be paying attention to. But it also looks like fair credit, contracts and debts, fraudulent overcharges, inadequate controls to protect consumer information resulting in actual loss to consumers. So back to what we've been talking about with Michael, and what the Bureau looks at is, protect your borrower's private information, because even though probably all of our information is on the dark web, if they can trace it back to us, and that's where there was some crack in the defenses, I guess, then we're in trouble too. So keep your nose out of trouble. They're going to focus on redressing tangible harm by getting the money directly back to the consumers rather than imposing penalties on companies. I'll skip the rest of that sentence. They're really going to focus on protecting service members, so veterans, etc. They are going to deprioritize say that 3 times fast. Participation in multi-state exams unless required by the statute. And they're going to really lean on the states. And okay. Yeah. And and there's some other things about redlining. So they're not going to go after, they're not going to be focused on redlining, but if you are discriminating against someone, it sounds like they're going to throw the book at you, which great, do that.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
how it should be.
I don't know. The question is, do they have 200 people to do this, or do they have somewhere in between 200 and 1,732? I don't know the answer. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out, but it would be great if we didn't end up with no agency whatsoever. Okay, so Kevin recently was an expert witness in a trial that was about a private money situation where somebody's equity was stripped, an older person, right, Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. So within that, we have had long discussions, not only about, like, what do we do when we have a situation where we see that there's a problem with somebody's, what's happened to them or their loan? Because we have another friend who called me and said, hey, I'm involved in this situation right now where he had somebody come to him and he looked at their situation and he couldn't do anything to help them. And he said, maybe you should contact an attorney, which they did, which they in turn filed a suit against an LO. And then the person, our friend, is being sued for, hang on, I don't say it right, Michael. You say it.
Did you say tortious interference with business?
Tortious. That's the word I don't say it right. Say right. Business tortious interference. So basically, you're interfering in someone else's business and causing them harm. And so for us on our end, and I'm going to do a dive into this with the DRE and a few other regulators, because we're always encouraged to report, right? Report the bad guys, tell the regulators, tell the authorities if somebody is doing something illegal. But if I'm going to get sued because I did the right thing, and then I have to hire an attorney and spend God knows how much money, then my motivation to do that diminishes quite a bit. So I'd be curious as far as, like, what do we do in these situations? And so walk us through filing a complaint and how we could do that anonymously if we needed to, et cetera, et cetera.
So for internet related crime, the best reporting way to report to the FBI is ic3.gov. It's also a good website where I think professionals and anybody really, but people dealing with the public and professionals, financial professionals, or whatever. It would be good to go through the website and look at all the public service announcements and look at all the newest common scams. I think it's always a good idea to do that. But you can report internet related crime at ic3.gov, and then non-internet related federal crime to tips.fbi.gov.
And we
So
could
that's the reporting tool.
we could do it anonymously.
I believe on there. I believe on there that there's that option. I believe. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Fly to a foreign country, get a random email address, send in your I mean, ay.
But you
Um,
never find out what happens with the cases in the most case unless you're called in as a witness, I'm assuming.
Yeah, typically we don't discuss, but if there's follow up, people will follow up.
Okay, so interesting. So Kathy says, in Ventura County, we have an awesome team with a district attorney called REFAT. REFAT. Am I reading that right? Oh, yeah, real estate fraud. Okay. Other counties, states are looking into forming a REFAT, but Ventura County is one of the first counties to have it. So it sounds like, and I've actually heard, this is going back to the title pirates and the title fraud and stealing deeds, etc. I know of a company that does this. You can pay them, but it's not inexpensive. Like it's expensive, hundreds and hundreds of dollars a year. So it would be nice if there was something slightly more affordable so that it wasn't quite as difficult to fit that into someone's budget, or it'd be a nice thing that we could give as a closing gift if it wasn't hideously expensive. All right, a couple of other things. Wedding guests are now being asked to give money for down payments, and I thought these numbers were really interesting. This is according to a Lending Tree survey. For anyone who wants to know the source, they found that 48% of homeowners who got married in the last 2 years asked for down payment assistance from wedding guests in lieu of traditional gifts. Isn't that something? Additionally, 52% of newlywed homeowners said they downsized their wedding reception to afford a bigger home purchase. So I thought that was something. And
All right, so you, as a lender, my clients come to me and they say, we just got married and here is a list of all the money we got as deposits from all these different people for my down payment.
Yep.
I can see a problem with that.
Well, if they're
just a slight one.
If they're pinning money on your dress, I mean, sheesh, you could ask them, you know what? Here's a great idea. With the invitation, you include a gift letter. Okay. So then we
Yeah, I think you'd have to do include the gift letter.
maybe we do this before the bar opens. Okay. So that everyone's sober.
But they'd also have to provide their bank account and statements show they had the ability to give the money, they didn't borrow it.
Well, you don't always have to do that. Oh, you know what? Wire transfer instructions handed out to all the guests so that they can just wire the gift straight into escrow. Can you see that closing statement? $25, $26, $32, wedding gift. Oh my God. Okay, we'll stop. I swear. Okay. Anyway, but I thought that was interesting. Okay, listen to this one. Okay, I pulled this off of, I can't tell you, so one of the internet chat or Facebook chat groups for mortgages. And this was posted by, I don't know who. It says USDA issued a full loan approval last week, and today they came back and said that the loan was being sent to Doge for approval. Has anyone experienced this? I've searched the internet and the USDA website cannot find any news or articles related to this. And it's a single family home. And so, someone else said, I was just on the phone with someone who works at USDA. Doge is not approving the loans, but they did fire a fair number of employees. There's a lot of scrambling to figure out what's going on. Anyway, bottom line is, if anyone has any information about Doge having something to do with loan approval process, I'd appreciate it. I'm just curious if that's really happening or if that was a one-off or. Okay. Kevin, any comments on that?
None on that, but I read now that CMG has a loan program for wedding gifts.
See, there you go. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you, Joanne. All right, there it is. So there's an idea. If somebody's getting married, tell them to ask for, and maybe they don't need to be, maybe they're seeing this like on wedding websites, like planyourwedding.com or whatever it is these days. So, yeah.
Well,
Michael,
I was just at a 30th birthday party celebration for one of my daughter's friends, and they said they came out ahead because they did a really grand event for this thing. They rented a hall, they had, DJ, open bar, there was maybe 100 people there, and apparently they came out ahead on the deal.
well, okay, if you rent a hall, that is not expensive. So you're doing it on the cheap if you're going to a hall.
Yeah, but still.
Anyway, that's good. I'm glad. All right. So Gen Zs are 25% of first buyer mortgaged home purchases. That's a convoluted sentence. They're excluding people who paid cash. So for people who got mortgages, Gen Z is 25% of the first time home buyers. So Gen Z is like sneaking into the mix now. It's not just the millennials. They're taking up a bigger part of the market share. I thought that was interesting. Are you having trouble computing that? Like,
No, I was, well, your thought triggered another thought where I was running into people paying cash for things, and now banks are charging for large deposits of cash, which I like, wow, that's really interesting. So so banks now are charging 30 cents for every $100 bill over $5,000 deposited.
or
This
one
is
bank.
Wells Fargo, I saw a charge. I haven't seen the other ones, but they're all seem to be charging now for large deposits. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder where that's coming from.
Okay, all seem to be charging, or one bank is charging.
I've seen multiple banks are charging this. I only looked into one and found out their fees for it. It was, I believe it was Wells Fargo was charging 30 cents for every $100 bill deposited
Wow.
over 5,000.
So if you're a
So
team and you're taking cash as you're selling snacks at the snack shack during the swim meet, all of a sudden your profits just went down because the bank wants to take a piece of your cash. That's not
okay, now it is 30 cents per $100 bill. So as long as your snack shack isn't taking hundreds, you're okay.
it's the
'Cause
bill.
I don't know any snack shacks that take $100 bills.
Well, Kevin informed me the other day, well, ours did. Kevin informed me the other day that they don't make pitties anymore. I'd missed that memo. Did you know that, Mike?
Didn't know.
No
Yeah,
more.
And by the way,
one of
by the way-
Trump's
hey,
executive
hey
orders.
guys, hey guys, just on that other question about being anonymous, it looks like there's an anonymous option on those reporting tools that we were talking about earlier.
Until
Just wanted to let you know.
the business you say the word tortious.
Horses. I'm
Horse-
probably saying it wrong too.
Oh, right. I'm sure interference.
It's torture.
All remain anonymous when we're making our reports because yeah, I'm not there's a fight I don't want to have to fight, right? God, you try and help somebody, tell them that they're getting screwed, and then you are gonna get that's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Michael?
Well, no, you're not telling them you got screwed. Say, I would recommend you talk to an attorney. There's a difference. If you say they're getting screwed, go get an attorney. Then you have victimized the other business.
Knowing the person that we both know, there's no way he said you're getting screwed. I'm sure he was very polite about it and recommended they go get some help. And here we are. So with all that being said, if you have a free moment tomorrow, buzz up to Sacramento, California for Camp's Ledge Day, which is going on, where they're going to go meet the legislators, talk about the issues in the mortgage industry, of which there are a lot.
Yeah. Also, if you're a camp member, get your votes in for the new offices.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Michael, how shall we wrap up? What would you like to what's a final thought you'd like to share with us?
I think yeah, just make sure to use those reporting tools. I can talk about really quickly just about some other scams that we're seeing a lot of. Always seeing a lot of the tech support scams. The grandparent scams with AI it's making it harder to detect because a lot of people post their stuff online. So I'd just say be careful of what you post online, and they're able to fake voices better now. So the old grandparent schemes where the bad guys would just call and then they'd have somebody scream in the background. But nowadays, if they do have your voice or somebody else's voice, they'll be able to exploit that a little bit better now. Always be on the lookout for cryptocurrency investment scams. It's not always just like a romance scam. It can also take form of maybe a customer. I've seen that happen where people pretend like they want to buy a financial product, and those commissions can be high. So be on the lookout for that. Government impersonation. We talked about gold bars earlier. The government is not gonna call and demand money, or else you're gonna be arrested. And the government, or many of the other subjects in these types of scams, they're having
we talked about this last time.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. Liquidate.
No, but I want to emphasize, the government doesn't call you and tell you you've committed a crime, we're going to come arrest you, or come down and we'll arrest you. They just show up and knock on your door, correct?
Yeah, they'll just they won't call and charge you money for it. Government won't do that. So
he's saying, because the guy that we had a few years ago, they called him in the morning and said, we're going to arrest you. Do they do that, Michael?
I mean, well, when it comes, like, I know for sure, like, legitimate government officials are not going to call and say, hey, we're going to arrest you unless you pay this amount of money, because that's a common scam, the government impersonation ones.
But you might call somebody and say, we're going to come by and arrest you at 2 o'clock today.
I mean, usually with those types of things, it's working it out with working it out with attorneys and things like that. So I'm not sure in that situation, but typically that, like, to my knowledge, it's that as far as the money and the scams, no government agency is going to do that. So that if somebody is telling you you need to pay or you're going to get arrested, then it's a scam.
Right. If they're asking for money over the phone, text, email, it's probably a scam.
Yeah, too good to be true, probably a scam. So there's just be really weary of these things. Even with the crypto investment scams and the romance scams, the apps that the bad guys will have you download to your phone, they look realistic. They look like any other app. It looks like you're making money. And sometimes they'll allow you to pull money out to convince you. They'll allow you to take money out to convince you to invest more.
Yeah.
So it's initially small, and then people are like, "Oh, I made so much money. Look at this." Then they put hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars into it.
I had a financial advisor, had a client who lost $750,000 that way. So he invested, it seemed too good to be true. And then again, to your point, they let him take a little bit out, then he put, and so exactly. Holy guacamole. Well, Michael.
So what you're saying on that one is you let them think you're buying into it, you take the little bit out, take your profit and run.
Okay, on that bright note, Michael, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all this with us. We'll look forward to our next rendezvous. And somebody in here, Tony is talking about his father getting a grandparent thing, and my dad did too. My dad was like, well, you know what? They just called the wrong guy. He wasn't giving him any money. Anyway, on that bright note, have a wonderful week, guys. There are lots of loans out there. Probably non-QM or private money more than anything else. Go get them. Close the loan. Michael, thank you. Go get some bad guys.
Thank you. Yeah, you got some bad guys for us.
All right.
Thank you.